Hey guys, just wanted to give you some feedback now that everybody has turned in your assignments for Module 2, which really focused on evaluating the credibility of information and all the misinformation that's going on right now with the coronavirus pandemic. So, first of all, thank you guys for working on these assignments at home. I know this is different for all of us, but most of you are doing a really good job of getting all your assignments turned in on time. Some of you are waiting to the last minute, which makes it harder to get some of this done effectively, but I appreciate that you're getting it done on time. So I wanted to give you feedback on the work that I've looked at from you so far in Module 2. So we're going to start with that SIFT method and how you guys applied that. Most of you did a pretty good job of actually going through those steps to evaluate the credibility of that information that I posted for you. Some of you, however, were a little bit vague in your narration of how you went through those steps. And then some of you only went through a couple of the steps from the SIFT method rather than going through the whole thing. So I wanted to show you a really good example, someone who did a really thorough job of going through that. So if you look at the example on the screen, you're going to see that this student went through literally every step, and he made sure he identified which step he was going through. And then you'll see he actually told me what he saw and found at each step. And what that did was let me see when he got to his conclusion what he was basing that conclusion on. So you can see as he went through each step, he told me literally what he did, what he found, and how he made his decision about whether this was credible. In the end, he found that even though it wasn't something that he needed to share because it wasn't relevant to him, that it probably was fairly good information. And this was actually a credible source. Some of you found that it wasn't, and I think some of you just have a healthier dose of skepticism than others, and you're less likely to believe things you find online when you're having to go through it this way. But that was credible information, and if you went through those steps, I think you found enough that would show you that it was likely something that you could trust. It may have depended on when you did the assignment, how much information you could find. But I wanted to show you this really good example of how to go through that method and how detailed this student was in going through it. And I don't necessarily expect to see 3 pages from all of you, but I do want you to make sure that you're giving me more than just a couple of sentences when I ask you to demonstrate something like that. Next, I'm going to go through the argument that you guys wrote about who is responsible for stopping the spread of misinformation. And you guys had a wide range of opinions on this. A lot of you said it's an individual responsibility, but I had several of you who argued that that's really the responsibility of social media companies or the government, which I thought was pretty interesting. So one thing I wanted to point out and give you some feedback on was that I did ask you to cite one of the readings from the module. And when we talk about citing things, that does actually mean mentioning it specifically within the essay and then creating a citation for that source at the end in a works cited page. So you can see that this student actually did some additional research and cited some other sources outside the module, which was great. And then she cited the article from Politico. Now, what would have made this a little bit better is if she had also used the in-text citations, those parenthetical citations that we've learned about before, to really specifically cite the article here. But she did at least mention the title. And then at the end, you'll see that she has an actual works cited page, which is what I expected to see when I asked you to cite a source. You might have only had one citation if you only cited one of the articles from your reading, but I did expect to see those citations there. Anytime we cite information that's not our own, we have to create that works cited page to avoid it being seen as plagiarism. So if you included information that wasn't your own and you didn't cite it, then technically you did commit a form of plagiarism. So make sure you avoid that in the future. And then finally, I just want to say that I hope you take that information from Module 2 to heart. There's a lot of information out there right now that a lot of you are seeing and sharing. or talking about. And I want to make sure you're talking about credible information and not being part of that misinformation pandemic yourselves. So you're continuing to look at argument as we get into module 3. I've seen a lot of you go ahead and get started. You've got some other notes to look through and then something else to write. So if you have any questions or problems with that as you go through module 3, make sure you reach out to me and ask. And if I can help in any other way, make sure you let me